some of the items were taken off to be recorded, to have the opportunity to bring them to the office, show my colleagues, and for them to ask questions and, hold those kind of items, because you're not going to get that opportunity to hold history of 3,500 years in your hand very often.
Welcome to Making It Happen by Sims, where we take a closer look at the people, passions, and unexpected stories that make the company what it is. Today's episode is a very special one, celebrating 35 years of Sims with two colleagues whose journey reflects how much can happen when business, history, and legacy come together in surprising ways. You'll hear from our founder, Andrew Henderson, a long-term member, Brendan Sansom, as we explore everything from acquisitions and sustainability to ancient discoveries and shared memories in Barcelona. So let's dive in. Welcome to you both. Weird that we're here in the same building. Are you
Good
both
morning.
well?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much, Mel. No, very good introduction.
Good. Well, we're getting to showcase the various parts of our office today, which is a unique view for people. So that's all good. So let's first of all, can you take us back to your first day and what you remember most? So I'll come to you first, Rourke.
Well, I suppose my first day of Sims was back in January 1990 in actually not in an office, up in Upper Street in North London, Islington, opposite the design centre, where we were handing out leaflets encouraging people who were coming out of the Apple show to at least consider a 1 megabyte upgrade, or indeed we hoped wanted to buy a 1 megabyte upgrade. So having handed the leaflets out, probably most went in the bin. Some might have gone home with the individuals, or indeed some came across to the restaurant where the co-founder and myself were sitting in an upstairs room with a borrowed credit card machine and 49 packed 1 megabyte Sims. So that technically was my first day at Sims. And linked to that, we had a office that we were moving into the following week in Wandsworth, SW18. And the phone did actually ring, mainly from the numbers that were on the leaflet that we handed out, that those kind of people who took them home rather than put them in the bin contacted us. And that was kind of the first day at Sims.
Amazing. Quite a considerable journey from there on. So, and Brendan, how about you?
So my first memory was being told to get a haircut.
Okay.
Which is not something I struggle with so much now, but it was to get a haircut. That's my very first memory of it, and that was to try and elevate myself into starting to sell what was at the time memory cards that started from kind of 8 kilobytes up to 128 kilobytes. And I found that exciting because it wasn't school. And I've never been a particularly academic person, so it was more about not being at school and earning some money for me.
Amazing. And we're all dying to know, what haircut did you have to change?
So I had very, very long blonde hair, Mel, very similar to like you've got now.
Amazing. We need to get some pictures of that, I think, don't we? You have to have those in the office.
Yes.
Well, brilliant. So it's one thing to describe sort of your first day and what sort of our company does, but it's the people behind the work that really bring it to life. So let's rewind the clock a little and hear how you both, how both Andrew and Brendan started, and more importantly, what's kept you going all these years. So Brendan, I'll come to you first. You joined when Sims acquired Jactron 17 years ago. What do you remember about that time, and how did it feel stepping into something new?
So to start with, coming from a very small family-run business with kind of a head count of 5 to an organisation of around 30 people, I've got to admit it was slightly daunting to start with. It also felt like a fresh start. we can move something that we've started and push that forward.
Yeah.
But also the fact, just immediately felt looked after. My wife was kind of heavily pregnant at the time. My daughter was due in about 3 weeks' time. I'd been in the business for less than a month, and Claire was just like, do whatever you need to do. Work will follow on later. So immediately just felt looked after.
Amazing. Oh, that's wonderful. And I hadn't actually realised, Brendan, that you were expecting so close to you starting. So that's quite a considerable change in a small amount of time,
It
isn't
was.
it? So
Yes.
amazing. Well, now I bet you never forget the day either now.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so you've been part of the same company for decades. What's kept you here? And what's made it feel like the right place for you to stay and grow?
I think that's quite a lot of things, to be honest. Um, Customers, some of which 35 years later, I'm still dealing with the same businesses, maybe not the same people. In some instances, I still deal with the same people. The project, the breadth of projects that you get involved with, no 2 days are really kind of the same. But also the people and the culture within the business and the values they uphold are very much aligned to me as a person. So, you know, how to recreate that somewhere else is going to be very difficult. So, I'm happy here.
Amazing. Made it very easy for you to stay.
Yes, very much so.
So was there something early in your life or career that has shaped your approach to work and your loyalty?
I would say that's probably more people than anything else.
Okay.
My parents, my grandparents, their approach to life, and you get what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Bit of hard work.
yeah, you're not going to get far without putting the graft in. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Fabulous. Okay, and Rourke, we come to you. So, as the founder, what inspired you to start the company, and what's kept your passion alive through the decades?
Okay, what inspired me to start the company was very much from an early stage in my life, probably around 8, 9. I realized that I probably wanted to have my own business. There are two reasons there. One, academically, even though those early years I wasn't going to leave school with a huge number of qualifications. But I suppose my father, being a fruit farmer, in a way, was running his own business, and I kind of liked lots of the aspects about running the business. The flexibility, albeit there was obviously a lot of hard work. So that it was probably more an influence on from my childhood that drove me that way, and the reason I'm still leading the business 35 years on is actually down to the people. And both of you are two great examples of colleagues I've worked with for many years, and really enjoy it. And that is a major reason to why I'm still here.
Amazing. And I think we can all feel that. I think that is in how you approach. You are very people first, which is probably a testament to some of our long decades of working with the business. So, Rob, from your perspective, what did the acquisition bring to the company that helped shape what it is today?
Well, I think reflecting over certainly the last 20 years, and where Sims were in the early new millennium, the acquisition of Jacktron has proved to be a very important one to our business on 2 or 3 levels. One is that along with acquiring the company, and much more importantly, was Brendan and Mark joining us, and they brought skill sets and an insight to the market that we simply didn't have. So that was massive. Secondly, with Jacktron came some vendor relationships, which 2 or 3 of them remain intact today, and in fact, I think are very, very strong. And thirdly, it took us into markets and customers that we simply would never have started working with if we hadn't acquired Jacktron. So overall, and reflecting over the last 12, 14 years, a really, really important acquisition. It's been a successful acquisition, and I've never regretted it from day one. But I think it's played a really key part in the sort of history of Sims and the future of Sims.
Absolutely. So was there something then from your childhood or early career that planted a seed for wanting to build something lasting, Bork?
Yes, I think, again, going back to being brought up on a fruit farm, I think, as I'm sure most listeners would recognise, farms tend to be businesses that last a long time and, in fact, go down multiple generations. I think in business, it's hard to replicate that. There's so many more moving parts in business, and the speed that things change, which you don't necessarily see on the farm. But I think it's certainly my childhood has played a huge part in that longevity that we strive for, and hence, probably you very kindly said, you can see the sort of my passion for our people, and I think that's really born out of how I was brought up, as opposed to something that you learn. I think you either have it or you don't.
Yes, yeah. So over the years, it hasn't just been about growth in business. So for Andrew, creating something meaningful outside of your workplace has become just as important as where the story of a special field begins. It's a little hook there. So can you tell us a little bit more about the decision to purchase the 60-acre field and what it inspired the rewilding project?
Yeah, this all came about in around 2018, when we were looking at our carbon offset here at Sims, both what we used here in the business, so that's been your electricity or gas, oil for heating, all the fuel we use distributing products, etc. And I chose or decided to work with a carbon footprint expert to at first measure what is our footprint. And having done that, we then had a tonnage that we wanted to offset, and we contacted around 30 organisations in the UK about buying an offset, which we felt was an important thing to be doing. We chose the UK because we felt, being a UK company, that was a good thing, and ideally we wanted to do something in the southeast. But either projects weren't available or they were full up, so there wasn't anything immediately that we felt we could do that fit, sort of align with our values, and so I thought, well, let's create our own offsets. And over the next couple of years, we looked at acquiring woodlands. We looked at a couple of projects with maybe buying parts of fields to see if we could do the offsets. And this initially 30 acres came available about 8 miles from where we're sitting here at the moment. So we acquired that, and then a year later, another 30 acres came up. So as you rightly say, Mel, we now have 60 acres, which currently we have done nothing with other than let the rewilding process start. So the last harvest happened August in 24. So since then, and it's amazing to see what has happened in the last 8-9 months with what's growing, the wildlife habitation that's starting to come back, and the plan is to leave it for the rest of this year, and we will start looking at basically a rewilding project that will align with the company's ambition to offset not just phase 1, 2, and 3 of our carbon, but to be in quite a unique position where we're looking for the next 35 years of Sims can we offset it for the future? I mean, that's the goal. So that's the reason we purchased the land, and I think you're going to come on to Brendan. There's been some other side benefits which we absolutely didn't know when we acquired the land, but I'll leave that with Brendan.
Well, absolutely. But I suppose before we go into that, how did the team respond in the organisation when you first shared your vision of turning the land into a sustainability project? Was it something that did we respond with surprise, or what was the feeling?
Yeah, great question. I think first of all, there was no overall or unanimous cheer or boo. As with most things at Sims, you had a few people that were really excited by it, could see it. You absolutely had some other people who thought, well, why would you do that? And then in the middle, a range of different views. I mean, going back to 2018, certainly all things environmental, was pretty high on the agenda. And then COVID happened, and it kind of changed the world. And in fact, it changed the world environmentally. You look at some of the reports about what was going on in the UK when we were all locked up in our houses. It was significant, and a lot of infrastructure or people traveling, flying, etc., did have an impact. So it'd be incorrect to say we had unanimous support. I think there was nobody at Sims who thought it wouldn't be a good thing to offset our carbon. But it would be incorrect to say there was unanimously 30 people all cheering.
I think from our perspective, it was probably something quite new. So there was, sustainability and going green and things were all these things that sort of the buzzwords at the minute. And I think for us, it was like, well, how does that translate into something? So actually by purchasing a field and it being something that is close by, people can go and visit, it's there's something tangible there, and then sharing the vision as to what you hope to achieve from it, I think has sort of has given us that education that perhaps we didn't have when you first announced it. So I think from that perspective, I think it's unique because we're going on the journey with you, which is exciting, really, isn't it? So so then as you sort of alluded to, Rourke, so it turned out to be a bit more than a green legacy project. So it also held a bit of a surprise beneath the surface. And it was Brendan who uncovered it, thanks to your personal passion that's taken you on some remarkable journeys. So Brendan, before we get ahead, how did you first get into metal detecting?
So, good question. I originally started when I was about 14 years of age.
Okay.
I'd always been quite an outdoors child. Come home for it's dark or the street lights come on, and it kind of started there. And I detected for probably 2 or 3 years. As I become more of a teenage boy, I found other things to do. So that hobby kind of got forgotten. It got forgotten about the detecting side of things, until a bit later on in my life when lockdown hit, and we were allowed to go out walking. And I'm very fortunate to live right on the coast near the beaches and out walking. And I just thought one day, you know what, I could pick up a detector again, and rather than just walking with no purpose, to do some detecting along the way. And I've now say I'm completely hooked. It's in my DNA from forever now. I won't be putting it back down to take up anything else.
Well, that's really, I hadn't realised it went back to your childhood. So
it is, yes.
It's amazing. So there's hope for us that I might be that ballet dancer that I once was.
You never know.
So you made a historical discovery at Andrew's land whilst metal detecting.
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened, and what was going through your mind when you found it?
So firstly, great choice of land from Andrew, or Rourke as we know him. it turned out to be an amazing find, which was a Bronze Age hoard that was made between myself and one of my very, very long friends called Chris. We go back to the first day of secondary school.
Wow.
And we've been friends kind of ever since. So heading towards 40 years now. And on the 30th of December, I found a couple of axe heads. I knew what they were. I sent a message to him with a picture with something that I can't repeat on this podcast. We both knew exactly what they were. We spoke to some people that were a little bit more knowledgeable than us, and they said there's a very good possibility that if you found those items, there's going to be more. So the next day, we went back, and there was more.
Wow.
We looked at the top of the hoard. We knew we shouldn't remove it. Lots of people do. But we decided to do the right things, contact archaeologists, contact our local finds liaison team, let them all be aware of what we found. And we kicked all the dirt back in, stomped it back down, and went home to wait 3 weeks till we could recover it with professional help. So some very sleepless nights waiting to find out what was in there. A bit like Christmas when you're a child.
Yeah.
You know there's something there, but what's there?
Amazing. Well, Rourke, so when you found out about the discovery on your own land, how did you feel? And did you ever imagine it would hold something like that?
Well, answering the last question first, absolutely no idea. I thought I was absolutely aware of Brendan's, passion about detecting. And I think even before we bought the field, I'd said to him, look, it might be worth, if you'd like to go and have a look. The geography of where the field is and location of Canterbury and history, clearly a very long history of Canterbury. Yes, I suppose I'm not totally surprised, but I'd be, again, had no idea what Brendan and his friends were going to find. And I mean, again, how did I feel? I was just delighted for Brendan because I know that the passion he has about detecting. I think it's great for Sims that not only are we offsetting our carbon, but there's a great example of colleagues benefiting from the land. And I hope if it's not detecting, there are other, activities or just to go out and walk around it and enjoy it. And it's on our doorstep. I just hope it's there for everybody to enjoy. So delighted for Brendan. And he's been brilliant at how all the items have been documented, and we've been up to show them at a couple of places in Kent, and I think a couple of examples going up to London. Loads of photos. So really thrilled for him, and pleased for colleagues at Sims just to see, there is sometimes life away from memory and storage.
I think you're exactly right there. I think it was we're all aware of sort of Brendan's hobby, but to have something quite so significant. So Brendan, you mentioned like this is a big find, like dating back that far. So it to have that significance and it to have some association to our business was an incredible story. So well done for being a pirate. That's what I say.
It was also fantastic before some of the items were taken off to be recorded, to have the opportunity to bring them to the office, show my colleagues, and for them to ask questions and hold those kind of items, because you're not going to get that opportunity to hold history of 3,500 years in your hand very often.
Absolutely not. I feel very privileged to have been in that position and mentioned it to my boys, didn't I? And they were actually learning about the Bronze Age at that time, so it was quite a topic, which is wonderful. So we slightly mentioned there, I think Rourke mentioned some stories of your previous finds, Brendan, but I know you've been called a bit of a local hero. Can you share some or one that made the headlines?
So there's been several times that I've been asked to help locate items that people have lost. Generally, they've been items that people have lost on the beach, tending to be jewelry of very sentimental value, whether it's wedding rings, rings that have been handed down to them, and they've gone in the water and got cold hands and they've slipped off their fingers.
Yeah.
And probably close to, I don't know, 10 items now that I've found and managed to get back to the owners, whether that's them contacting me first or me finding the item first, then trying to find them. Some of these have made Kent Online. Some of them have been on BBC News, BBC Radio have wanted an interview. I kind of struggle with the limelight, so I prefer to do it in secret, get the items back to them, and insist that I get no reward from it. If they want to make a reward to anyone, that it goes to charity. I see it more as a challenge for me. The fact that they get their items back is fantastic, but for me, it's more about the challenge.
And that's really, really honourable. I mean, I think for when we're speaking, I think most of the emojis that come up is people, you know, like in the dollar signs or whatever. But actually, to know how that it is something that you do for fun and enjoyment,
Yes,
and then you get the reward of obviously reuniting some lost items.
exactly
I
right.
imagine those people are very, very grateful for you being on the beach,
Yes.
finding it. We know who to call if we're ever lost something. So sort of taking it back to the land where we made the discovery then, how has that changed how you see the land, Brendan, and its place in the company story?
So it's very difficult because I get to walk lots of land and you never really know. You can do lots of research. You can kind of think some places are going to be good and they're not. Other places you think are not going to be good and they turn out to be great.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to know. For me, I always think about anything I find, what's the history? Who did it belong to? What was their life like back then? You look at the Bronze Age hoard, for example, 3,500 years ago. What was their life like? Who was that person? Why didn't they make it back?
Yeah.
If they saw you now with a machine capable of finding that stuff, you would probably be some kind of sorcerer.
Yeah, that's true.
Things would have been very, very different. So I always think of the connection to the person that last held that item and what that would have meant to them.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really powerful. I like that analogy, absolutely. So from history beneath the soil to memories made above it, this year marked a big milestone for Sims and for you, Brendan. So we celebrate 35 years and we took the team off to somewhere a little sunnier. Rook, when you decided to take us off to Barcelona to celebrate 35 years, what made you decide to celebrate in this way?
Well, we've been lucky enough that on each of our previous 6 5-year anniversaries, we have done something to celebrate that time, and therefore we felt it was right for the 35, and particularly because around our 30th celebration, it was all caught up with COVID, and we all understand what happened then. Going to Barcelona was really the ingenious idea from my our colleague Claire, who thought it would be a great city to go to, and yeah, couldn't agree more. So really, it was because we've done it previously, and yeah, European cities obviously popular over this short bank holiday in early May, and that's the reason, location, and why.
We did all anticipate what city it might be, I think, after the previous ones. So there was a lot of sort of gossip in the office of where we might be. But it was a fantastic city to go to. So yeah, we were very honoured to do it. Rook, how did it feel to be surrounded by the people that helped build the company and some of them for decades?
Well, I mean, yeah, one word: proud. I felt incredibly proud. I always feel proud, but I particularly that weekend felt incredibly proud to be able to share our 35 years with our colleagues. And as I said out in Barcelona, whether you've been a colleague for 29 years or somebody's been with the company for 3 or 4 months, it's just great to spend time away from the office and get to meet people and hear more about what their story is, about their families, and feedback about the company. So a very, very special weekend for myself. But answering your question, incredibly proud.
Fabulous. Well, it was an amazing experience. So we felt it, and being there, and like you say, to connect with everybody, doing activities that weren't sat at a desk necessarily, was a nice change of pace. Absolutely. So looking ahead, what's next for the company and its people?
What's the next trip, or what's next for the company?
Well, I would like to know what the next trip is, but more so for the company.
Okay, so as the name would suggest, singular inline memory module. Our business, we will still be involved with memory and storage, but we also recognise to help that, or help the business on the memory storage, looking at some products or markets outside memory storage will be a good thing. So certainly over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll certainly be doing that. We'll be trying to understand about AI and what is the opportunity for the type of business we are, and we'll continue to learn about that. And then we're at this time of recording the crazy world of tariffs and geopolitical events happening we have no control over. So it's ensuring that we as a business adapt to those changes rather than try and fight them or influence them happening. We simply can't do that. But what we can do is to continue to invest in our colleagues, work with our vendors and suppliers, and hopefully we're in good shape to be able to provide our customers what they need.
Amazing. So Brendan, I suppose just to sort of get your views on the amazing trip that we went on. So what was it like being part of it, and were there any standout moments for you?
So firstly, from my point of view, it didn't feel like a work trip. It felt more like a family holiday.
A really big family.
Yeah, a really big family holiday with some people being in charge, leadery, mumsy, whatever you want to call that, and some people being a little bit more dysfunctional and being led around, but also looked after. And everyone that was there and attended was all looked after, and all had the same opportunities. And I think, as Rourke said, whether you've been there 35 years or 6 months, everybody was included and everyone had a good time. And we celebrated in true Sims style, like, we always do.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, we say that we made some memories, but we might have forgotten some of the memories as well.
No comment.
And how did it feel having your years of service sort of recognised in such a meaningful way?
So firstly, I would say I feel privileged to be recognised for that. 35 years is a long time, but I felt privileged to have all my colleagues around me, all of them saying very good things about me. Very grateful to be around those people for a weekend. It was fantastic. And you look at other people that work extremely hard, they don't always get those kind of opportunities. And, very fortunate to have that opportunity and spend time with my colleagues. It was fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some good pictures and a few videos of some dancing, I think. I think you two were in it, weren't you? No, it was a fantastic trip, and yeah, as Brendan said, a huge privilege to be able to go and experience a city, and do it in such a way was amazing. So before we wrap up then, we wanted to hear what the journey has meant to both you both, and we hope listeners will take away from your stories. What's one thing you'd like listeners to take away from today's conversation? So I'll come to you first, Rourke.
Well, first, thank you for listening. If you're still with us, assuming you are, I think what's come from coming out of this podcast is the importance of one's colleagues, how we appreciate, how I appreciate colleagues. Absolutely don't take colleagues for granted. But behind everything we've done over 35 years, it's because of our people. And regardless of the industry or size of business, it is your people that will make a business. So I hope that has come out loud and clear. It's something that we as a company feel passionately about.
Absolutely. And Brendan?
So I would probably say biometal detector.
I mean, who wouldn't be at this point?
No, but in all seriousness, whether it's detecting, whether it's your career, what you do as a job, be consistent, work hard, and as Rourke just said, surround yourself with the right people. You're very likely to succeed in what you're trying to do.
Amazing. Very, very good advice. And finally then, how would you sum up your journey with the company in just 3 words? So Brendan, I'll come to you first.
I'd say first word is unbelievable.
Okay.
You know, it's the 35 years in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
When that started, I would never have even considered that was something that was going to happen. So unbelievable. I feel very fortunate to have been on that journey. It's been fantastic. And the last thing is, I'd say, is unfinished. There's still more. Wow.
Very good. Very good. And Rourke, can you top that?
I certainly can't top it. I think all through the 35 years and certainly the next 35 years are 3 words which all my colleagues know. And I think we've always tried to remain relevant. We have been resilient, and we continue. And so important, particularly this year, remain agile. And those are the 3 words that I think are timeless for a company like ours.
Amazing. Very, very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us for our special episode today. Whether you've been with Sims from the start or just discovered us today, we hope you found something to connect with. So here's to the next chapter, and we'll see you next time on Making It Happen by Sims. See you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.